Welcome to my podcast, and I'm sitting here today outside the castle but in some shade. It's a beautiful day with Louis Coelho, who is our butler and banqueting manager and actually a man for all seasons and many talents and a great lover of football. And I'm not exactly sure how long he's been with us, but I think he'll be able to tell us. So welcome, Louis. So how long have you been at Highclere now?
Well, it's coming now in September to 12 years. I didn't expect to stay so long, but I think everybody that arrives to the castle tends to stay forever. I mean, I'm only one of the newbies compared to part widows and a lot of our other members of staff, like Les Taylor and all the other ones. But it's just, it started as a job and then suddenly it's part of your life, and you don't feel like it's a job anymore. It's your life, and it doesn't feel like you're working anymore. And the castle is so big in the grounds, so it's always something to do. So
Yes, I've seen you bicycling off in different directions, or running, or playing football, or barbecuing after work, or playing golf.
Golf. I do play golf sometimes on our lovely lawns, which I tend not to play when we open to the public because I don't want to create big divots. But yes, I'm very privileged to go for a run or cycle, especially after a day of work. I tend to do a bit of sport. Even during lockdown, the weather was fantastic and we just did some sport.
It was amazing, and I remember when you first arrived, and your enthusiasm has never waned. It's been extraordinary, Louis, and I'm so grateful. And I think Highclere either gets you or it doesn't. And
absolutely right. I mean,
has.
it started probably as a job the first year or 2 years, but then it's like the castle belongs to me a little bit, and I really care about the castle. And if it's raining and it's a leak, it really hits in your heart. It's really part of you. I don't know, it's a feeling. It's just a lot of people feel like that about the castle. And I've been here for 12 years, and I still look at the castle, especially as you come to the drive, and it hits you. And I'm sure the same for you. And then inside the castle, when I'm as a butler and I'm serving you, and there's so much details in the castle, and you always find something that you haven't seen it yet, and it's just so much detail. It's just a dream.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I remember because when you first joined us, Colin Edwards, who was butler, was here, and he was sort of passing on some of his knowledge and the ways of doing it and traditions to you. But I'm never quite sure how it works, Louis. You seem to be such a expert, such a traditionalist, such an expert with such an eye for detail today. And when you're setting the table, it's definitely your table and your dining room. And I'm lucky to go in and sit there.
It worked very well. I mean, I've been trained in hotels and catering and hospitality. That's why I trained 3 years, and I learned from cooking to bartending to serving. I was very lucky to start hotel leading of the world, so one of the top 100 hotels in the world, and that's where I got my base from. And then from there I went to the Algarve, Quinta do Lago, which is the nicest area you could work for. Then I was in St. Albans, where we used to have the English football players and Harry Potter. There were kids back then, so they were filming in Watford. And then I came here, but it's just amazing. And Colin was beautiful. He was a lovely man, and he taught me a lot. And he taught me a lot about the traditions and the family. Even knowing that I had knowledge about service is knowing what the family likes, how they like to be served. And it was fantastic.
There have been some very funny moments. I'm pretty sure you were here when I always sit in the dining room facing the paintings. I don't know if you were on that day. And my husband facing the other way, the windows. It's actually the reverse to Downton Abbey, and I sit where my mother-in-law sat and he sits where his father sat. And then one day I thought, well, Geordie, you must have a treat and you must have a look at looking at the paintings, so we'll swap over. But because everyone was so used to going round the table and always beginning to serve the lady who was sitting to my husband's right. But of course, he was sitting in a different place, so everybody went round the table several times until they found the lady.
That's right, because around the dining room we always walk clockwise, so we never walk anti-clockwise. So if you pass that person, you don't turn back. You keep going until.
You keep going. So I just thought it was just like completely hysterics. And actually, do you know what? My husband was discombobulated in a sense because he was not sitting where he was used to sitting, so he's clearly not bothered about looking at the paintings. He's lucky enough to have seen them and he shares them with people, so we went back to where we normally sat, and I've never changed it actually, because otherwise
keep it simple for us.
simple.
But another thing, sometimes we when you do butler service, which we do the plates first and then come with the food, sometimes we forget the plates. So we look like, and then we take the food back, and then...
Oh God, it's been so funny.
We do make mistakes, but we get really actually upset when we make something.
I really don't mind. I think
And again,
as I've gone on here, I really don't mind. I'm so happy and lucky to be able to welcome friends, and we have such beautiful dinners, and it's such an act, actually. It's a stage, I think.
I say that to everybody. It's
bringing
like,
people together.
it brings down to Downton Abbey, the way we do the service. It's just, people don't think we still do it, but we actually do. With the butlers, we dress up as much as the family and the guests, and it's just, we always bring the warm plates, and Lord Carnarvon always puts their hands and Lady Carnarvon make sure they're warm, and he's like, so we pass the test.
Well, no, it's just that then we can make a signal say, I think you bought the wrong plates. But anyway, but I think it's also because in today's world, you're multitasking. You're not just serving us. That's from time to time and special occasions. And the other side of your life is much more of our lives, is about welcoming visitors and making sure they're happy, and the showmanship of also welcoming them as guests, is making them feel happy, whether they're having a panini or a sandwich or a salad or one of your amazing cocktails at what's now called Louis' Cocktail Bar.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's much better if you treat anyone as a guest rather than just a customer. We're not a supermarket. We literally want to invite everybody and make them feel really special. Sometimes it's a once in a lifetime, depending where they're traveling from or how old they are, and it means the world to them. So if you make them special, and sometimes when they meet Lord and Lady Carnarvon, it really makes their day. And meeting the dogs and everything. A lot of people follow Lady Carnarvon on a podcast or Instagram, and when they see them, it just means the world to them and makes the day.
Well, I think when funny enough, when they see you and some of the team, Louis, is part of the characters. I mean, Paul, our chef, is more in the kitchens, but he's very much also, the heart of the team, you and Paul working together, and that relationship is very important.
In the state, I mean, we both here for the same time. I think he's 6 months ahead of me, and it works, and you usually get a friction, especially in hotels. The chef in the front of the house, they always get a friction. But we are mates, we are friends, and we...
He also came here for a job, and he has, he thought he would stay here 2 or 3 years as part of his job and his CV. And now he says to me, Lady C, I know I came for a job, but I'm still here. You're not going to fire me. I said, no, please never go. But it has been amazing, and I think he and his family are very happy, and your daughter Isabella's so happy, and you've got one of my dogs.
I've got everything, so I think I've got a great connection. It's just unbelievable, the life we're living.
There's such special moments.
It's a good life, actually. You live a good life here. I'm not being funny. It's just, the work isn't bad at all. It doesn't feel like work, to be honest. You're talking to lovely people, and we have a good laughter, and we all get on, to be honest. We've got a lovely team here.
Of course, one of the most famous butlers in the world is the fictional one, Carson, Jim Carter, who is utterly charming in real life as well as on television. So what's your impression of Carson then, Louis?
Well, he's very, very good at acting, definitely.
He's a bit taller than you.
He's very tall, so that would mean they would get paid more than me.
Yeah.
I believe back in those days, the taller you were, the more money you would get paid.
You got an extra £2. I saw that if you were more than 5'10", you got £22 a year.
So that's why I'm in minimum wage still. But no, I think he's a great character. He played it very well, and his voice and everything, the way he walks, it was brilliant. Definitely employ him if I could. Although he probably would be my boss. I'm not as serious as him. We do similar jobs actually when I'm looking after the family, but also I look after the business as well. So and the guests that come to the castles, and he would probably be a more powerful man back in those days. He would literally look after the whole house, and no one would say no to him.
In the equivalent days of Castle Highclere, there was a head butler and an under butler, and actually in Victorian times there was a house steward, and then there were 14 footmen. But having said that, you're running a team of some 20 or 30 today, aren't you?
Absolutely,
so
it's 20 today. I mean,
so it's different roles, but he was very much a businessman. It was the valet who had control of the finances, apparently, and the butler was really managing the logistics. So it's not that dissimilar. And then working, in his case, with Mrs. Hughes, who he also married, whereas in some ways each of the departments here is slightly more separate, and you're probably working most closely with Paul the chef. And Sheena, who leads the housekeeping team, probably works more with myself or John Guntill, actually. But we still call ourselves departments, so sometimes there's only one person in them in today's world, which makes me laugh so much.
Our team grows and shrinks as required, and
it does.
the way the world moves, and we're adapting to the new times, the new life.
You, of course, have been here for all the Downton filming. You're perhaps not the first one up in the morning, but you're usually the later one here at night.
Definitely, I'm not a morning person, but definitely more evening. And you're very right. I mean, I think you'd open up in the morning, and very often I would lock up.
Actually, my husband opens up in the morning. I'm going to be honest.
And then we'd lock up, but it was actually long days. But you kind of end up getting to know them quite well, as they film for so long, and then after that they get 3 or 4 minutes of tape. So you get to know the actors quite well, and the crew as well, and
then we've had some of the actors and the crew to stay actually, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Which has been wonderful.
And they actually is a great experience for them because they think it's only Downton Abbey, but they get to see it's actually the true. I mean, that we still do like in Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
I mean, the service and everything. So
Michael Engler came in the middle of the film. Did you remember? He took a weekend out, and it was lovely. He came and Michael Engler, the director, came and stayed.
Bonneville as well came and stayed.
Quite a few. Leslie Nichol quite often comes.
Yes,
this is fun.
It's good to see them relax as well in the house and enjoying the life.
Well, it's private, isn't it? Because we've been lucky enough to have some extraordinary VIPs here, and I think overall nobody really knows anyone's here.
No.
And it's moments of peace and serenity, tranquility, as well as humour and laughter, which I think is incredibly good. The other moment I remember so clearly was when Clemmy, the brown cocker spaniel, was giving birth, and she began on the sofa in my study in the castle. Your daughter Isabella was there, and we watched, and she watched, completely mesmerised, as firstly little Evie came out.
I think that moment actually really marked Isabella's life. She keeps still mentioning about that. It was so special for her. And I think that was about 7 o'clock in the afternoon. Downton was here filming. And then ended up carrying Clemmy and Evie up to your bedroom.
To my bedroom. My husband actually chose another bedroom to sleep in.
And I think Ted then was born about 4 o'clock in the morning or so.
He was. Sadly, one came out who, a little boy who sadly was born dead. And it's funny because Clemmy just didn't have anything to do with him, and I put him in a shoebox, and I felt very low. And little Evie was fine.
And there was another one, Loggy Bear.
No, and the next one out was Ted.
Oh, was it Ted?
And it was in the middle of the night, and I could see your little boy's 4 white paws come out, and it was dark. And it was so exciting and so lovely, and he was very well and fed very well. So that was 4 o'clock, and then my husband reappeared kindly with a cup of tea at about 7 o'clock, and I had obviously snoozed fitfully beside her during the night, and we then went to the vet, and the last one, Logan, was born, who's got another happy...
He was as well. I think you ended up giving him some milk and all that too.
Yes, we
There's a weak one,
him.
Small one, and
he's now grown.
Turned up to be the strongest.
Yes, but it was such an amazing journey, and Ted's become. He has all your enthusiasm.
He's definitely my son. My life is now based around the dog, Ted. All my plans are what we're going to do with Ted. What we do with Ted is coming with us. Or my day off is marked around Ted. It's just, even my car choice is now a car that I can put a dog. No more sports cars. How important a dog is for you.
But he gives such love, doesn't he?
He does.
He's such a lovely person.
It's like a human. He's treated as a human, to be fair.
Well, Evie, his sister, who's around here somewhere, is equally well a human. And Evie comes on holiday to Cornwall with me, and then she cuddles up on my knee and everything else, and she gets lots of special attention.
So special.
They are so lovely, very, very lucky actually. So dogs have now unexpectedly perhaps become part of your life.
They are.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
you never thought you could love a dog so much. It's just.
But moving from animals, during the whole of lockdown, Geordie and I began these virtual cocktail parties, which sadly you couldn't be part of to start with, but so every other Friday, and they were quite something to organise. We began to feel more confident and began to build them up. And then, of course, as we were being open to the public, you were wonderful and joined us on the last virtual cocktail party. And rather madly, we held it out by the temple.
It was. And we had some animals.
Yes, we had some animals. And the thing was, it was just so lovely to have you there, because until we created the Highclere Castle gin and went from there into cocktails, which is really what it was about. I hadn't realised the depth of your skills as a mixologist. But tell me about the cocktail party out by the temple, because that was the funniest thing
I think we've done, 5? You've done 5 altogether during lockdown. But it was amazing. Of course, I was nervous as I'm here. I don't do TV or podcast very often. No doubt my second podcast will be a lot better. But it was amazing. I mean, we had horses, we had dogs. We started feeding Phoebe with raspberries, and I wasn't sure, can I feed her? Will she bite my hand?
Phoebe, my Arab mare, who also thinks she's a person, not a horse, and she stood outside the temple, and I sort of said, did you want to come in? And honestly, I swear to God, I think she answered and said yes, and up she stepped. My husband was slightly nervous because she's quite large, quite a large Arab mare. And she walked towards Louis and the fruit, which he had some blackberries and some raspberries. And Louis, not very discreetly, said, well, do you think she'll have a raspberry? Held her. And immediately she thought, delicious. So she started having the raspberries. We'd luckily already had the cocktail, which had the raspberries in. And then she had a few more. And then she thought she'd find them herself and put her head in the bowl. And then after that, she just went to one side and she decided she'd have a taste of the oranges, which she hadn't yet eaten.
And then she turned around, there was a table behind with some glasses, so we were very quickly moving everything around. When it's live, anything can happen, so it's literally...
We were so lucky, and I could feel, I was slightly nervous because I thought we had been very lucky to get away with Phoebe in the middle of glass and bottles, and I thought that was perhaps the time to exit, and she potted off so calmly back. Actually, she was delightful. But that was really, I think, a wonderful cocktail party to end on, and perhaps we can have a few more, both virtual and real, as we move towards the autumn. But I've so enjoyed learning from you the art of mixology, the balance of the gin, and of course here you are with that background, part of our journey of Highclere Castle gin.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think we could be any happier with the gin. We definitely didn't rush it. It took us 3 to 4 years to make the gin, but it is a wonderful product, and the more people try, everybody's becoming a fan. And it's a very fast-growing brand out there, in top hotels and everywhere. It's got now 8 gold awards, medals, which probably on a new gin, no one other brand won so many awards so quickly. It's wonderful to work with cocktails. The botanicals really stick out, the orange and the lavender. So when you're making a dry martini, which most of the cocktail is literally just gin, the orange really comes through, and matching a Negroni, where we got the bitterness from the Campari, but the sweetness of the vermouth and the power from the gin. It really makes a great Negroni. And on the last cocktails we did, the Brumble, which is blackberries, which is almost in season because we had such a warm summer, and it's wonderful. And we did Clover Club, which is your own raspberries. So, yes. And very easy cocktails. Literally, we had the gin, and then we had lemon juice, and the sweetness of the raspberries or the Brumble. Sometimes if you haven't got enough sweetness on the fruits, then we add a bit of sugar, syrup. But that's it, and it's very easy cocktails to make. Anyone can make them at home, and that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to make complicated cocktails that then they can't replicate back at home. It's just, and there's so many cocktails out there now. It's just unbelievable, and the decorations as well. The garnish playing such a part now, and Instagram and everything. And they're just magicians out there now. They're making all these cocktails, are really giving it a run for the money to the chefs, the fine dining. They're the beautiful cocktails. And
do you know, interestingly, I hadn't, I suppose, become so familiar with vermouth, and I was making a mushroom risotto, and then I actually, instead of white wine, added some vermouth. It was just delicious to a mushroom risotto. It just, the herbs and the depth, it was not bitter, not sweet.
No. You got a lot of flavour.
Just amazing. And I made it for my husband, and it was Hannah Guttridge, who helps us on the PR. She was quite doubtful that it would work, but it was completely scrummy. So I have really enjoyed.
It's amazing
experimenting with the food as well, because I think we could pair some Highclere Castle gin cocktails with some food. And funny enough, that one, a mushroom risotto using a little bit of vermouth, would be a very good starter to pair with a little, I don't know, Negroni or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, there's champagnes that you can match with food as well as cocktails, and depending what depth you want, how strong they are. Negroni is usually more an aperitif, but also a digestive, because after a nice meal you have a Negroni. But you can definitely match cocktails with food, and also you can use the gin into food. So you can smoke salmon or something. So you can definitely.
It's delicious. I mean, it has. I have learnt so much on this journey, and I'm at the end entirely happy with this beautiful bottle and the most delicious gin. And a visitor walked by me and said goodbye to me yesterday as she was leaving. She said she'd bought a bottle of Highclere Castle gin, and she said thank you very much for your tip of serving it with trying different mixers and trying the rosemary and the orange, which she said she loved and she'd never thought of doing. So it's really interesting how you try with what you have.
Exactly, and also, I mean, gin and tonic. Not everybody likes the gin and tonic, but there's so many different tonics out there now. If you like something sweeter, try an elderflower tonic. Try whatever you like, and then you got different flavors. And rather than just go for a different type of gin, where stick to the premium gin and then add different tonics, and you really can attract everybody. And different garnish as well is amazing. Most of your palate actually comes from the nose, so the orange and the rosemary really comes through when you're smelling, and then it kind of tricks your brain. And
well, I love being tricked. What's the cocktail which has the champagne in as well?
That's a French 75.
That's a French 75. Yes, that was definitely quite strong.
It's very easy drinking as well. So
it is very easy drinking.
That's some of our mojitos.
I remembered that one. Yes. But then, and aside from the gin, we also planted a vineyard last year, which has been extraordinary. And Joseph Perrier and family came over, and I never normally drink at lunchtime. But we went to the local pub, we call the Pheasant in Highclere, to have lunch, which I thought was a suitably French thing to do. And of course, in their suitably French way, they started ordering champagne to drink. It seemed wrong and I think I had to ring Matthew to say, can you please come and get me, because I can't drive.
That was an amazing story. I mean, for them to come over, they sent out their chief winemaker, which never flown before, to come on a flight, to fly here, to see our soils, to give us some advice. It was just unreal. And
it was a brilliant idea of my husband's, because the south-facing old walled garden, which actually I found the Capability Brown plaque above the door saying 1771, he had thought it was a good place to try a vineyard, because what else do you do? We're not going to be a kitchen garden ever again, and we have supermarkets. So it's been a fantastic thing. And then last year, my husband wasn't sure whether we would or we wouldn't, but then I decided we would, so I ordered everything.
I think it was a great idea and a great thing to do. The weather is only getting better.
It is.
It's actually, in fact, getting a bit too warm in France, so they're investing a lot in UK. Back then, 30 years ago, they would harvest in October. They're now doing it in September, so it's a sign that it's getting too warm. And the weather here is perfect. It's getting better. We won. England won a lot of awards already against champagne, and we have a lovely walled garden which retains the temperature probably a couple extra degrees. So I think we've got something very special coming.
So do I, and I'm going to start repairing the wall and remortaring it in sections. And I thought I'd plant up pears and
absolutely
and roses and everything like that. And I'd like to plant a rose at the end of each line of vines, which is what they do in France. So
exactly. So it's always a sign. If you see roses, the pests usually go to roses before they go to. So it's a sign.
But I thought it'd be lovely and a beautiful walk round, and again something else to share with.
Absolutely, there were some tours around and
magic.
It's a lovely setup. I think we'll have the best vineyard in the world. I'm not being biased. It's just,
isn't it? I'm so excited, and it's
And again, we're gonna have to play then with a blend. We got Chardonnay, we got Pinot Noir, and then how much we're gonna put of each and see what we're gonna get. But that's gonna be fun.
Exciting. Anyway, it's going to be called Chateau Highclere.
Wow. So we've probably got to have 3,000 bottles or so here. So we've got to be something very, very special to start with. And then, again, depending on the weather, last year we had twice as much harvest on grapes. Is that harvest the right way?
Yes, yes.
The right word compared to the previous year. So the more sun we have, the more wine we'll have. And
well, I think this is the second year, so the third year we can pick a few grapes,
but then
and then go from there.
But then we'll have to age as well, and age in a barrel and age in a bottle before. So we're talking probably 6 to 8 years down the line before.
Well, I think the 5th year we'll be drinking something.
We'll see. Definitely have champagne grapes picking up in 3 years' time,
Yes.
and then probably a couple of years before we'll be drinking.
Yes, no, I was thinking that. Isn't it exciting? There's so many different avenues to follow here the whole time, so we see where we go with it. So perhaps on that note, Louis, I might just say thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Louis, so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
I hope you're enjoying my podcast as much as I'm enjoying making them. Do let your friends and family know about them. Subscribe, and if you're feeling generous, please leave a review. Thank you.